When I think about style, I'm thinking about how I'm going to use this music to tell a story. What story am I going to tell? And which techniques am I going to choose to best tell that story to the audience? Now, we only get in our title intensity. Intensity is kind of a feeling, but it's still pretty abstract. It's not a complete program. Like, why are we feeling intense? What's intense about it? What is this really about? In the writing, there's a lot of cinematic elements to this music. And what I mean by that is it kind of sounds like a movie soundtrack or something to that effect. And if we think this might be a soundtrack to the movie, well, what's this movie about? Maybe a good exercise in class, and you can use this as one of your restorative practices, is just go around the room. Hey, let's listen to this. What does this piece mean to you? What do you think the story could be about? If we read the program notes, it indicates that this piece should be played in a marcato style. So first of all, what is marcato? In Italian, it just means marked. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, to me, it means that each note gets a little bit more emphasis and a little bit more weight. Another thing that we need to think about are the accents, and that plays a big role in the style and really a tonal indication for intensity, because it's completely diatonic. There's no leading tones. There's no D sharps. Okay, it's more modal. And so what happens is we have these accents, and they always occur on 5-to-1 progressions. Okay, so E, B, E, 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 and this right here, this descending line is basically a dominant pattern too. So we're just hammering home, since we don't get the leading tone, we're hammering home that E is our tonic note. You put those accents in there and there's going to be no mistake about it. This is our home note. The other thing that we might want to think about is what sort of vibrato we want to use if your students are advanced enough to be using vibrato yet, and I hope they are by this point. If not, I have an episode in season 1 on vibrato to how to stage that technique, and I think vibrato is going to breathe a lot of life into this piece. I think that we should use more of a wider, more rapid vibrato and intensity. The intensity of your vibrato should match the intensity of the music you're playing. So if the song is called intensity, you should probably use pretty wide vibrato and pretty quick vibrato. I like to have my students vibrate in the rests. And I do this for a couple reasons. One, it sounds really good, and I like to hear that ring, and I like to have them vibrate the ring in the rest. But if you look a little further in the piece to like measure 19, you'll see that there's a sustain here instead of rests. So if you're getting the students to vibrate in the rest, and it is marcato, but if you get them to ring, it sort of helps to match that style and keep more of a uniform style throughout this piece of music. In measure 43, we have an opportunity for our upper strings to vibrate during the rest. And of course, this section before it at 35, we're playing marcato, but we can still ring in that section as well. Now, before we get too lost in the weeds, how do we achieve a marcato style? Well, if we want a uniform marcato sound from our entire orchestra, and we don't want our students to rush, and we want to have good phrasing, we're going to have pretty good technique and pretty good bow hands. So I always have my students start by doing bow push-ups just to make sure that we're loose and flexible with the right hand, and that's really going to help with marcato bowing. The next thing that I do here in the teaching companion is I just have them play marcato quarter notes. Can we be in the middle of the bow, and can we play marcato quarter notes? Can we be uniform across the orchestra? Then I do eighth notes. Then I do mixed bows. Then I do mixed bows with dynamics, because I want to see if they can retain their style in the piano section. So if they're not able to retain that style in the piano section, they're likely to be missing a technique. They're likely to not be gripping the string. They don't have enough horizontal shearing force to have that marcato punch, but just turn the volume down. If we go back to intensity, this section here, from 19 to 27, should sound a lot like the beginning. It should, the rhythms, the low strings are sustaining instead of punching those notes out, but it should have that same intense effect. It's just we've turned the volume down on the stereo. The opening figure in low strings is an excellent way to teach grip on the string. And I like to start here with everybody because there's enough rests where we can really set the bow, we can grip the string, and we can even wiggle the string to confirm that we have enough grip on the string. So I've taken that rhythm out, I've put it in everybody's part here in the teaching companion so they can play, grip, wiggle, play, play, grip, wiggle, play, play, so on and so forth. Again, you don't necessarily want to start at quarter note equals 144. If they don't have the technique, slow it down to where it's easy enough to where they can do it seamlessly and they're not struggling. If they're playing fast and sloppy, you might as well not be doing it at all. It's just wasting everybody's time. I mean, I understand that students are also working on rhythm, but like anybody can learn this rhythm. The rhythm's not that complicated. What's complicated is the technique, the right hand. I was judging UIL concert and sight reading not too long ago, and I was in the sight reading room. In this particular room, I was sitting at a table, but I might as well have been sitting in the cello section. I was that close to the students, and it was probably pretty uncomfortable for them, but you've got the facilities you've got, and so you just got to do the best with what you can. In any case, they're coming in, they're wearing their concert black, and they're doing their shadow bowing during the explanation period, and I'm noticing that they're bowing across their laps, but there's no rosin coming off on their black dresses and black tuxedos. Like, why am I not seeing rosin coming off? Do they have some kind of magic invisible rosin? I know there is a brand of magic rosin out there, and that's great marketing, by the way. You don't want to get pollen in your rosin. Got this hypoallergenic rosin. It's just, again, brilliant marketing. Good job, guys. Magic rosin, not a sponsor. But in any case, make sure that your students are rosining their bows. They want to put on a little bit of rosin every day. Maybe not so much for the bases, but definitely for everybody else. They need to take some of that old rosin off because it dries out, and they need to put some new hydrated rosin on their bow. If we're able to play at 19 and sound good and have the right style, we know that we've got the technique. We know that we've done our job as a teacher to teach the bow hands and teach how to grip and wiggle the string, all that good stuff. As we approach 27 here, I don't like to come up too much on this crescendo. I like to do it kind of as an experiment to see if we can have enough bow for the half notes and to develop a little bit of phrase here, but I don't like coming up too much at 27 for a couple reasons. Number one, there's a counter melody, okay? And of course, we don't want to cover up the counter melody, but that separation of voices is going to make it sound louder anyway. It's adding some complexity to it. And number two, I would like to really save for this crescendo in 34 and make 35 even more impactful. I want this to be a really big moment. We're changing our rhythms. Everything's accented, everything's heavy. Arguably this might be the biggest hit of intensity. Later on in the piece, we do have some subito pianos. We've got one here in 54, and we've got another one here at the end in measure 70. So even, again, stylistically, even though we're playing soft, it doesn't mean we're playing with less intensity, okay? So make sure we still have that intensity and quality of the sound, good vibrato, good bow usage. It's just like turning the volume down on the stereo, okay? We still have that power. It's just soft. In the next video, we're going to spend more time talking about articulation. Articulation is how we start the note and how we activate the sound. I talked a little bit about it in relation to the marcato style, but articulation is going to be critical for every single note in this piece. We need to make sure that we're articulating correctly, or else we're going to have a lot of technical problems. So hope to see you in the next one.